Hi, this is Tracy, and I'm going to give you an overview on what exactly BTSA is, as well as a brief history on how it evolved. So, BTSA is an acronym for Beginning Teacher Support and Assessment. It's a state-funded program co-sponsored by the California Department of Education and the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. It was designed to support the professional development of newly credentialed beginning teachers. And there was a growing concern for teachers within their first 1 to 2 years of teaching, and we'll get into some reasons behind implementing a program like BTSA in a little bit. BTSA also fulfills the requirements for the California Clear Multiple and Single Subject Credentials. BTSA programs are locally designed and implemented in accordance with the standards of quality and effectiveness for professional teacher induction programs. So BTSA is a little complex in the sense that the programs can differ from area to area, school district to school district. However, the programs have to fall under and use these particular standards as a guideline. And you can see the standards at the link below within the parentheses. So BTSA was designed to meet the needs of new teachers during their first 2 years of teaching. In the 1980s, there was a growing concern for keeping new teachers in the profession, especially due to increasing class sizes, diversity of student population, and increasing complexity of subject matter to be taught. California policymakers were concerned also about teacher turnover and the fact that many new educators were really overwhelmed and experiencing burnout so early in their careers. BTSA funds were folded into the local control funding formula and are now allocated to districts to use for teacher support according to local needs. So the BTSA funds, it's not mandatory for them to all go to a BTSA program, but rather just for general teaching support. So as a result, districts are not required to provide a BTSA program. However, the kicker is that new teachers still need it or an equivalent program to attain a clear credential. So here's kind of a timeline to see how BTSA evolved and how it was implemented and changed over the years. 1988, that's when policymakers really became interested in supporting teachers in their first and second years of teaching. There were growing concerns about the lack of retention of new teachers, especially when it came to urban and rural environments. There was also a really high turnover of new teachers from student minority populations. So as a result, the Bergeson Act was implemented in order to examine alternative models for supporting and assisting the professional induction of first and second year teachers. So for the next 4 years, from 1988 to 92, the California New Teacher Project created and launched a pilot program. So this included individual mentoring, support, professional development, and teacher self-assessment. In 1992, the legislature authorized BTSA, and for about 5 years it ran how the pilot program was administered. In 1997, BTSA program leaders and teacher education experts developed 2 sets of standards. The first was the California standards for the teaching profession, and the second were the standards of quality and effectiveness for BTSA programs. So the California Commission for Teacher Credentialing and the California Department of Education, they adopted these 2 sets of standards as policy statements on what constitutes good teaching and what constitutes as a good quality induction program. As a result, new professional development was adopted, which includes support provider training and site administrator training. Formative assessments and teaching portfolios moved increasingly to standards-based, evidence-based formative assessments. And to continue with our timeline, in 1998, there were a bunch of different factors: class size reduction, along with the California Reading Initiative and What Matters Most, Teaching for America's Future. That publication, all of these factors led to AB 1266, and that updated the education code to include new requirements for the BTSA program. A key, actually I should say a monumental reform that was passed also in 1998 was the SB 2042. That was the first reform to teacher preparation and credentialing in more than 30 years. And that established a two-tier structure for credentials. So the first tier comes with teacher preparation programs that grant preliminary credentials. So like most of us, we received our credential, our preliminary credential, from the University of Laverne, or are in the process of doing so. The second tier is a district or county-based program, and that grants you the professional clear credential. And these induction programs now replace the traditional BTSA programs. So for the next 9 years, from 1998 to 2007, BTSA programs were responsible for 14 program standards, and teachers are responsible for 6 induction standards. And those are located in that blue box in the center of your screen, and most of these are pretty well recognized, especially from our credential in our master classes. The first, academic content and subject-specific pedagogy. Second, using technology to support learning. The third, supporting equity, diversity, and access to the core curriculum. The fourth, creating a supportive and healthy environment for student learning. Number 5, teaching English learners. And the last one, teaching special populations. In 2008, induction program standards were restructured to several common standards, and those induction standards for teachers were more holistic and included pedagogy and standards about universal access. So also in 2008, induction became an accredited program that has a 7-year cycle of accreditation. Within that 7-year cycle, approved programs self-evaluate and modify their programs based on survey data from all stakeholders. And then what happens is they complete a site visit where documentation of all activities is confirmed by the Bureau of Institutional Review members.